Hobby Homesteaders. Welcome back to Peak's Peak. My name's Lucas and we're sharing our hobbies on 38 acres in eastern Kentucky. But today, we're not really sharing our hobbies. We are actually doing a product showcase for MechMaxx. You guys know MechMaxx has been a great supporter of our channel and has actually allowed us to get into milling lumber and doing a lot of the things that we love to do here on our homestead. But MechMaxx is also growing a business and they're branching out into all kinds of great products. And I have agreed to demonstrate some of those products and do some things that would help promote the products that they have. And the first chipper we're going to unbox is the B200. This is a 35 horse twin cylinder wood chipper that will chip up to 8-inch diameter logs. So it's going to be really exciting to pull this out and see how it works. This is how you can expect the items to come packaged, and they will arrive on a freight truck with a lift gate delivery. Now, I use my tractor with forks to unload the trucks. Usually I don't have them use the lift gate option, but if you live in a residential area or you don't have a use of a tractor or a forklift, they have lift gate service so they can get it unloaded off of the truck and put somewhere where you can start to take the crate apart and begin assembling whatever implement or attachment that you've ordered. When you place an order from MechMaxx, if it's an in-stock item that's in their warehouse, then you can expect pretty quick delivery. Now, obviously, these items are coming from China originally, so if you pre-order, then you may have a long wait to get that in. But in general, when I do these product demonstrations for MechMaxx, I actually have an invoice that they send me that places an order to where it goes into the queue just like paid orders that are being sent out. So they go through the same process and I get the same notifications that you would get if you were ordering from MechMaxx yourself. And what I found is that on in-stock items, almost always they're delivered within 2 weeks. Now I know I've talked to some of you about items that you've ordered that were back ordered and were ordered at a time, like the sawmills are a very popular item. And so the sawmills are items that often get back ordered because they're coming in from overseas. The back orders on those can take quite some time. But I have always received everything that I ordered, and anything that I've ordered that's in stock that day has arrived within 2 weeks. This is almost always how things are packed inside the crate, wrapped in plastic. And I just take a pair of pliers and straighten these tabs out, and then you can peel the crate apart just like that. And I have these scraps of foam padding. Of course, every assembly is going to be a little bit different, have more or fewer pieces, but I'll just take whatever parts are loose in the crate or whatever parts have to be assembled and set them out on this foam padding to kind of take care of them until I figure out where everything goes. And another tip is I don't throw away my bubble wrap and things until I have everything assembled and I know that there are no more parts or bolts wrapped up in that bubble wrap. Because sometimes you can make a mistake and miss something as you're unwrapping things. I'll just be honest with you. Every one of these machines comes with a 16mm T-handle. And I've yet to use one. I'm not sure what it's for. Maybe it's for the spark plug. I don't know. Axle back there. This is heavy. Ugh. Look at that. Man, that's a good looking engine. Now this B200 comes with a manual that's pretty easy to follow. There's actually not that much to assemble on this, so this shouldn't take too long. But we're going to start out just as it shows and put the axle on underneath the drum and just kind of go from there. So guys, the only thing I can say is if you don't have a helper to help you pick up one side of this to get it stabilized, to be able to put the tongue on and the wheels on, you're gonna need a little bit of help because it's heavy. I tried to do it just by hand, by myself, just because one, a lot of times that's how I do things, and two, I wanted to be able to advise whether or not it's possible. Now, there's a whole lot of guys a whole lot bigger and stronger than I am could probably accomplish this, but it's a lot. So kind of plan accordingly. Have your buddy come over and help you out or get you a cherry picker or something like that so you have some options because it's beefy. Okay, now inside of the crate, I found one loose nut, so I grabbed it when I saw it, and then later I found a washer and a bolt. Sometimes that happens. They have a lot of the assembly hardware put in place where it's going to go, and it's shipped that way. It's good and bad. It's kind of handy that you have the bolts set up to where you know what goes where when they stay in place. But they're vibrating around in a shipping container all the way around the world, so some of the bolts can come loose, and that's what happened in this case. So it's the only thing I've found so far, and we have it, but it's one of the wheel bolts that goes on this side over here. So just kind of keep an eye out as you're taking your crate apart and make sure that you watch for any bolts that might have come loose during transit. Even with the cherry picker, it's not easy to get these wheels and tires on. Ended up grabbing the floor jack as well, because it would be really easy to mash your fingers bad trying to lift this up and do it all and try to feed those bolts in there yourself. But we got them all fed in there now. We'll get them snugged up and we'll let them out. Okay, now on this tongue, I actually I temporarily put this in place because it's for the front axle and I wanted to make sure I knew which direction it goes. Okay, well, we are at the spot where we can set it down on its own wheels now. Get the jacks out of the way. And I'll just be honest with you, that was a little tougher than I expected because it's so heavy. There's nothing complicated about it, but it's heavy. Back it up. Let her down easy. Perfect. Okay, this should be simple enough. So let's go ahead and knock this out. Just drop the pins in. And these need adjusted so that this goes good and tight. And so you've got a safety switch right here. You hear it click. These have to tighten down so that you can hear that click when you close the door. Hear that? That's what we're looking for. So, tighten these down. Boy, she's starting to look like a wood chipper now. Okay, now, same situation on this. We have a safety switch right here. So we got to tighten these up. Now this right here is something that actually I am really glad to see, because the quality of this emergency stop seems very improved over what came on my sawmill. And I pointed that out to them and complained that it was basically useless the way that they came before. And they've upgraded to a much nicer switch. It seems like it's probably more watertight, but it's definitely a sturdier material. So that's a nice little upgrade there. And guys, I'll go ahead and tell you, this one kind of caught me off guard just a little bit, because I didn't expect to have to pull bolts out of the valve cover to install the gas tank. But that's how this is designed. So we're taking these two bolts out right here. This one goes right there. This one goes back right there. I actually have a support bracket that's already installed on the engine. It goes right there. Okay, now we're ready for the fuel tank. Okay, now on installation of the gas tank, it's very unclear from the instructions how to go about routing this. But the way they have zip tied this line here, I don't think this is even used. I don't like that setup, but that's what they've done. And it seems like it's meant to be installed like this, and this line runs around here and hooks to this. However, if you do that, then you have this fuel line run around here closer to the muffler, and this tail of fuel line that you're not using for this machine is over here next to the muffler. And I don't like that. So here's the installation decision that I made. I'm going to turn this sucker around like so. And we're going to cut this fuel line off. Save this. Save that fuel line for later or extra. And we should be in business. That's that. Next, for our air box cover. All right, I think this is about the end of it. Okay, got those all hooked up. I see another reason why we did not want the petcock on this side, and that's because this is where you put the oil in. And based on what the manual says, this engine holds a little over 2.5 quarts, 2.6 quarts of 10W30 oil. That's what's recommended for most temperatures. And it does not come with any oil in it, so you have to put oil in it before you start. And your dipstick is over here by the starter. You want to check it right there. We need another 1/2 quart. Now, you don't want to overfill it. You just want to put it right to that top line there. And then next, we want to grease this main bearing. Go ahead and grease these up while we're here. Now, one more thing we always want to make sure we do before we fire up our machine and use it for the first time is inspect the belts, make sure they're tight, and then also we want to check the main bearing in here and make sure we grease it. It's just 4 bolts to take off this cover here, and take a look at your belts and get to this grease fitting on this main bearing here. So you've got your clutch assembly and your 4 belts right here, and they all feel good and snug. But it's good to check because these things have been shipped around the world. We want to make sure that everything's the way it's supposed to be. And I like to go ahead and hit this main bearing with some grease right out of the gate. Now, a couple of quick tips real quick is, of course, you have to be able to pivot these wheels so that you can tow it. So these are meant to be up when you're towing, and then you drop it down when you're ready to get to work. Let me put this pin back in here, and we're all set. Now, a couple of other things is you can lock the swivel. So if you want it to just go straight, you lock these in. If you want them to turn, you leave them up in the up position, and these wheels will steer. Also, when you're ready to work, you've got your locks. You push on the outer one to lock it in place. When you're ready to release, you push the front one, and it releases it. There's your oil filter. And this is actually an oil cooler, which is really nice because it's going to help to keep this engine cooler when you're running it hard on those hot summer days. You have a nice filter system with 2 filters. That's the exact same kind of airbox you find on like my Kubota tractor, my Kubota side-by-side. So nice quality air filter system on this. Now, one of the things that I have found on most of the wood chippers that I've received is that you need to adjust this wear plate to the blade because there's too big of a gap and the chipper just won't work at its optimal capabilities. And the specification for this is the blade gap is supposed to be 1 millimeter to 3 millimeters. And that's about just under a 1/16 of an inch up to an 1/8 of an inch gap. And on this one, basically the closest that I can get it to adjust the way it's set up is a little over a 1/16 of an inch to about an 1/8 of an inch. So that's about right, but check your blade gap and make sure, because if you've got a big wide gap, then you're not going to be happy with the performance of the chipper. And all there is to tightening this, to adjusting this, is there are 5 bolts that go in from the underside into this wear plate, and you just need to loosen those up, move the wear plate to where it needs to be, and then tighten it back up. And then, of course, you've got to have gas. Okay, now, I've gone over the machine. I made sure it has oil. I made sure it has fuel. I've got everything hooked up, and we want to check all of our emergency stops, make sure everything's in. We checked our switches when we put the chutes on. So we'll pull our choke, and we'll turn our key. All right, guys. Well, this MechMaxx B200 35 horse, 8-inch wood chipper is impressive. It's a big machine. You can tell the engine is a big commercial grade engine. It has oil pressure sending units on it and fail safes and things like that, as well as the muffler is good. It's not an extremely loud engine. The electric start seems to work great. It fires right up. I like the choke system on it because it's just simple manual, you know. I really feel like this is going to be a pretty mean machine. I can't wait to get it out there and try it out and see just how big of branches we can put through this and see how it compares to our other machines. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed seeing the assembly of the MechMaxx B200. If you've got questions, be sure and drop them down in the comments, and I'll do my best to help you out with those. Until next time, get outside and enjoy God's creation, because it's beautiful out there. You all have a good day.